All right, everyone. Welcome back to the land of Kem. I am your host and the author. My name is Jeffrey Drum. Thank you all so much for joining me again. All right, everyone, welcome back. This is episode 114, and today I will be discussing the impetus for the construction of the Pyramid of Meidum, explaining its function, and presenting some exclusive new footage from inside of these reaction chambers that was filmed during our recent expedition to the Fayum Oasis. If this is the type of content you're interested in regarding the ancient technology of a lost civilization, utilizing chemistry and physics, and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from across the world, this is the channel for you. So please subscribe to the Land of Kem here on YouTube, and don't forget to click that little notification bell so that you do not miss the new episodes that premiere twice per week. Please like, comment, and stay tuned. If you want to help support this channel, check out the Land of Kem members only section, link in the video description below, for exclusive research and unreleased footage that you will not see anywhere else. If you want to pick up a copy of the book or grab some Land of Kem merch, check out thelandofkem.com. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is @thelandofkem. Also, don't forget, after you finish watching this video, please go subscribe to our two new channels here on YouTube, Egypt Eats for food reviews, and Egyptian Trash Cats for all you cat lovers out there, where we document our saga caring for our Egyptian street cat family. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for the support. I think that's it for today's intro. So without further ado, let's get right to it. All right, and just a quick reminder for anyone that's interested in coming to Egypt to see the spectacular pyramids for yourself, the Land of Kem 2024 Ancient Alchemy and Ascension Tour is on, and bookings are still available. For a taste of what you can expect during this life-changing adventure experience, check out the tour promo video, and if you want to join the group, please send me an email to contact@thelandofkem.com with the subject line 2024 Egypt Tour, and I will send you the full tour itinerary and pricing details. This year's tour includes special permission access to Abu Sir, private entry into all three chambers of the Great Pyramid, and an adventure that you will remember for the rest of your life, a journey into the subterranean chambers of the Osiris shaft. Thank you all so much, and I will see you soon here in Egypt. All right, everyone, here we go with tonight's episode. All right, and to begin, here are some pictures as we arrived at the site. Bright and early, around 8 o'clock in the morning, after a 2-hour drive from Cairo. And you can see here, in the hazy distance, the Pyramid of Meidum. Now, as we get a bit closer, the spectacular sunrise became even more brilliant, and it appeared that our timing during this entire expedition was absolutely perfect. And I'll be releasing some exclusive footage on the members-only channel for this month from our visit to Qasr el-Saga, or the Palace of the Goldsmith, where we arrived just in time to watch a breathtaking sunset while we began exploring this fantastic site. This is one of the most amazing structures that I have ever seen, so if you want access to that footage, along with some massive research-related content, check out the members-only channel, link in the video description below. Next, we hit the ground here around the Pyramid of Meidum and began to investigate the area. And I got this photo from behind this black granite container showing both the Pyramid of Meidum here on the right and Mastaba 17 here on the left. And the footage from our expedition inside M17 will be coming up on this week's Sunday site visit. For those of you that have never seen inside of M17 or what it takes to get down into these chambers, this is an episode you do not want to miss. So now let's jump into the archaeological research surrounding the Pyramid of Meidum and determine the purpose for this perplexing structure. First, here is a diagram showing the remains of what may have been a valley temple structure down here, the causeway leading into the reservoir enclosure here, the Eastern Temple, located here. And here is the structure known as M17. And during the annual inundation of the Nile River during the dynastic period, and year-round during the Saharan wet period, the water levels were much higher, and the river would have come all the way up here, meeting the threshold of the temple, exactly as has been documented in every other structure along the west bank of the Nile River, which I will show you now on an immersive journey into Google Earth. All right, here we go, zooming in onto the Pyramid of Meidum. All right, and you can see the remains of the Pyramid of Meidum here. And here is the structure known as Masaba 17. Now, let me pull back a little bit. And this is the Nile River as it stands today. And you can see here the ancient water level of the Nile River, and this green area here is the floodplain that would have been covered in water during the annual inundation of the Nile River. And even further back in time, at the end of the last ice age and during the Saharan wet period, this would have been the standard level of the river water. And moving over here, you can see the floodplain, known today as the Fayum Oasis. And this was an immense ancient lake where the water level of the Quran Lake that you can see here used to fill this entire area. And this will be relevant when we explore Qasr el-Saga, the palace of the goldsmith that was located on the edge of this massive ancient lake. And zooming back in, and you can still see the remains of the causeway leading from the edge of the river toward the reservoir enclosure wall, which you can see here. And this is what it looked like during the original excavations of the site. All right, and although the Nile River no longer floods up to this area during modern times, you can see here in this picture from the original excavations of the causeway area that there may be a subterranean water table below the structure that still brings water to the surface. Now, onto the construction. And let me start by saying that the Pyramid of Meidum demonstrates the evolution in ancient industrial scale chemistry technology, not only in its construction, but also in the sophistication of the reaction chambers as they progressed from simple fermentation chambers at the Step Pyramid of Djoser and developed into more sophisticated reaction chambers within the Red and Bent Pyramids of Dashur that involved more complex mechanisms of operation. And here are the proposed stages of the construction process in which you can see the traces of the stepped pyramid design in the core that was expanded over several different stages and then cased, as you can see here on the bottom left, with the first true pyramid tetrahedral geometry. However, the structure experienced a catastrophic collapse, toppling the casing stones and some of the core masonry that you can see here in green, leaving it in the ruined state as we see today, shown here on the bottom right. And according to the archaeological timeline, the Pyramid of Meidum is the predecessor of the pyramids in Dashur, built by the pharaoh Seneferu, and it is said that he is responsible for the construction of all three of these pyramids during his lifetime, making him responsible for the largest quantity of stones ever moved and assembled in Egypt. An absolutely monumental feat if you go along with that conventional narrative. So it is no surprise that we find very similar features inside all three of these structures. However, I obviously have a different interpretation of this story and believe the Pyramid of Meidum to be an intermediary structure between the Step Pyramid in Saqqara and the Red Pyramid in Dashur that was designed to test and experiment with different methods of construction and eventual implementation of physics and chemistry. So it features similar design elements to the Step Pyramid with the addition of exterior casing stones, making it a true pyramid. And as I proposed way back in episode 27, this was to ensure the encapsulation of internal pressure within the structure, as the pressure involved in the operation of the Red Pyramid would vastly surpass that of the Step Pyramid in Saqqara. The external casing stones would also alleviate environmental concerns, such as gases leaking out of the structure into the atmosphere. And if you haven't seen episode 27, I highly recommend it, and I will put a link in the video description below, as I present 5 justifications for the massive volume of stones encased within the pyramid body that are directly applicable to the internal physics and chemistry, not to mention the dielectric properties of the limestone blocks that I've been discussing in recent episodes. So you can see here on this diagram that the Pyramid of Meidum has a very similar internal design to that of the Red Pyramid. And you can see here, down at the bottom, these first 2 chambers that were discovered in 1999 by using an endoscope passed through a hole drilled into the wall of the primary chamber right about here. And you can see a picture of this hole that leads into these first 2 chambers. And this dual chamber system that was discovered behind this wall has a remarkable similarity to the configuration of the primary and secondary reaction chambers of the Red Pyramid in Dashur, as you can see here in this comparison between the 2 diagrams, with the exact same slope angle of the northern pump shaft and the test design for the first 2 chambers. And I will say at this point, I do not think that the Pyramid of Meidum was ever operational. All indications show that the project was completely abandoned after the collapse of the exterior casing stones. But it displays all of the intent in terms of the physics involved in the operational mechanisms of the Red Pyramid. And they took the lessons learned from this structure and implemented them in the completed project in Dashur, which did finally become an operational chemical reactor pyramid. Next, you can see here the test design of the final synthesis chamber on this side, but with the long side of the chamber oriented north to south here in the Pyramid of Meidum, and east to west within the Red Pyramid. This pyramid also has features that are reminiscent of the Bent Pyramid, with this vertical shaft or chamber here, being excavated directly from the bedrock with a very similar configuration to what was later implemented into the bent pyramid's lowest separation chamber that you can see overlaid here. So as I mentioned before, the Pyramid of Meidum is a perfect example of the evolution in sophistication that occurred during the construction of the Egyptian pyramids, moving from very simple fermentation chambers at the step pyramid into incredibly sophisticated, lightning-powered, sonochemical acoustic catalyst reaction chambers within the Great Pyramid of Giza. So of course, there had to be intermediary experimental sites that may have been intended to be fully functional, but for one reason or another, the project was abandoned. Lessons were learned, and newer, better structures were designed. And I showed this exact same diagram in one of my first episodes on this channel, describing the process of the evolution of the pyramids. And now I have some exceptional footage to show from inside of the reaction chambers of the Pyramid of Meidum. And here is just a beautiful illustration showing this process of evolution from the simple step pyramid into the pyramids of Hawara and Meidum that are located in the Fayum Oasis. And I have some new footage from the Pyramid of Hawara and the Labyrinth that will be coming up soon. And then moving on to more sophisticated structures like the red and bent pyramids in Dashur. And then finally, culminating in the construction of the pinnacle achievements of this civilization, their masterpiece pyramids on the Giza plateau. And I discovered something very interesting while exploring the structures of the Fayum Oasis that is directly related to the function of the Menkaure pyramid, and I think I may have finally cracked the case. But before we jump into the footage, here are some diagrams from Keith Hamilton showing the internal components of the Pyramid of Meidum. And just look what we have here. A pit or shaft near the bottom of the northern pump shaft, which was also implemented in the design and function of the red pyramid as the fill shaft mechanism. And here, you can see the opening here that I'm looking into during the footage, which may be a secondary access into the hidden dual chamber system that you can see here. And it appears that this area was never fully cleared out or excavated, as it is still currently filled with sand and trash. So now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's take a journey inside the Pyramid of Meidum so you can see it for yourself. All right, everyone, welcome back. And today we are on a very special expedition. About a 2-hour drive outside of the Cairo and Giza pyramid area. Here, well, it doesn't look like much with all the haze behind me, but today we are out in the Fayum Oasis. And the first structure on today's agenda the Pyramid of Meidum. And this structure has been on my agenda to revisit for quite some time. And today we are going to be investigating the evolution from the construction, chemistry and physics that were embodied within the step pyramid of Saqqara, moving into the red pyramid of Dashur. So the Pyramid of Meidum is an intermediary structure out here in the middle of nowhere, intended to test and evaluate the new construction methodology and the chemistry and physics that would be utilized within the red and bent pyramids of Dashur. And you can see here the internal stepped core tower-like structure that was then surrounded and encased with a conventional limestone pyramid. And as always, I'll put in some diagrams at the beginning of the episode so that you can familiarize yourself with the structure. And as you will see in just a moment, the internal components of this pyramid are very reminiscent to those of the Red Pyramid in Dashur. And today we will be exploring the internal system to determine the possibility of a secret chamber existing inside this structure. And you can see here the casing stones that would have completed the finished tetrahedral exterior of the structure. Say hello to Lex.
Hey, buddy.
From Ancient Odysseys. And more of the remaining exterior casing stones here on this side. And over here is the primary inlet shaft leading into the internal chamber system. Now, as it stands today, there is only one chamber that is accessible inside of this structure. Which is configured according to the plan of the final synthesis chamber of the Red Pyramid. However, it is believed that there are two more chambers that still exist inside of this structure. And the last time I was in here, there's an area inside of the primary chamber that we're going to try to document today. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I believe it's time to ascend the staircase so we can go inside the Pyramid of Meidum. Here we go. And I have to say that stepped tower core of the pyramid is absolutely wild looking. And originally it was much taller than it is today. Okay. All right. يلا بينا تحت.
يلا بينا. يلا بينا تحت. هو ينزل بالاول عشان يصور.
تمام.
You start first.
شكرا. All right, so we'll be discussing the configuration of the chamber system as we approach the interior components. But one thing that is a major difference is the height of the primary inlet shaft. This one I can almost, not quite, but almost stand all the way up.
I can.
Well, she can. I'm crouched down a little bit still. You can see that there's some pretty significant erosion and just general destruction of this inlet shaft. There was only a very small area that was finished to the original proportions. All this has either been, again, I don't know why they would destroy this inner part. And I will say that this area here looks particularly rounded. Look at how round that is. It looks very similar to the erosion that we see down in the bottom of the bent pyramid, this area here. And it looks pretty much the same, leading all the way down in through here. And you can see that these are limestone blocks. You can see the seam of the limestone block here. And there's some seams here. There's a seam here. This is a block. All right. So now we've reached the bottom of the primary inlet shaft, and this is another difference, is this little ancillary chamber here. So there's a little housing here, and you can see that it was originally finished. So down here, you can see the remains of what would have been the casing that covered this area. So this was originally a finished little housing, very reminiscent to what we see inside of the central pyramid. It has the little alcoves adjacent to the primary inlet. All right, so now we're gonna go up these stairs. That will take us, and the last time that I was in here, the electricity was off. Yusuf and I did this in the dark, and we're going to go up this ladder system into the core of the pyramid and the primary chamber. As you can see here, there are some wooden beams inside of the structure. Oh, it's It's a tight fit going up here. Okay, good. This is actually accessible. This is the area that I wanted to look at. It's in through here. So this is believed to possibly be an access into the secondary chamber system. You coming?
I'm coming.
Okay. And I'll show this in a diagram at the beginning of the episode. But this hole here is believed to be a cavity that could lead to the secondary chamber, which is the design phase. Again, this is an intermediary structure moving from the engineering, construction, and chemistry of the step pyramid into the fully functional structure that we saw in the red pyramid. So you can see in here what would have, in its original condition, you can see that some of these are actually finished here, 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 but they never finished this structure. You can see that the upper beams have not been finished to the 90-degree angle. So these are pretty close to finished. But as you move up, the interior part here is still very, bulbous looking, and it hasn't been finished to the fine 90-degree angle finish. And the conventional story goes that there was a catastrophic collapse in the structure that led to all the casing stones crashing down off the outside, and they abandoned the construction. But one of my main questions is, if this was originally intended as the burial place, the first burial place for Seneferu, as the conventional story goes, why the hell did they build it all the way out here in the middle of nowhere? If he was intending to be buried among all the rest of the pharaohs adjacent to the Nile River, there's absolutely no reason for them building this structure out here in the Fayum Oasis. And I would propose that it was never really intended to be a functional chemical manufacturing facility. But again, it was rather an intermediary test structure that was designed to evaluate some of the potential engineering, physics, construction, chemistry, etc. that was to be implemented in the red pyramid of Dahshur. And they certainly could have tested at least some of the physics-related capabilities inside of the structure. And again, who knows what was removed here from this little housing. This reminds me very much of what we saw inside the pyramid of Userkaf in our special permission access. It had a housing that was removed out of the wall that was very, very reminiscent to what we see here. Here, at the floor of the chamber, there would have originally been paving or casing stones at the bottom. But just look at how eroded some of these are. It's very, very smooth. Some strange erosion patterns here in these little paving or casing blocks. Yeah, Lex was just pointing out there's a drill hole here. There's a secondary chamber system back behind this wall, which would function as the primary and secondary chambers of the Red Pyramid. Again, I'll put in a diagram at the beginning so we can discuss the configuration so you know exactly what I am referring to. All right. So that is the inside of the only accessible chamber within the Pyramid of Meidum. We have several more structures on our expedition to the Fayum Oasis today. I'll leave those as a surprise, so stay tuned. Yalla bina. All right, everyone, that is it for today's video. This was episode 114, The Function of the Pyramid of Meidum. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and in this week's Sunday site visit, I will take you along with me on a true adventure to explore Mastaba 17. This is an episode you do not want to miss, so if you're interested in the ancient technology of a lost civilization utilizing chemistry and physics, and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from across the world, this is the channel for you. So please subscribe to The Land of Chem here on YouTube, click that little notification bell, like, comment, and stay tuned. If you want to help support the channel, check out the Land of Chem members only section and thelandofchem.com if you want to pick up a copy of the book or grab some merch. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is @thelandofchem. Also, don't forget, please go subscribe to our two new channels here on YouTube, Egypt Eats and Egyptian Trash Cats, also linked in the video description below. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for the support. I think that is it for today's episodes. I will see you next time. Yo, are you still watching this? Please subscribe to The Land of Chem here on YouTube and click that little notification button. New videos coming out every single week. And check out this other episode. Come on, do it. Do it now.